Bases dropped on a wall past Wednesday here on Soccer's Morning Show. John, hear you there. Full show as always. And we'll go backward a little bit before we go forward, an opening kickoff, and get you ready for later this morning. And then we'll get you ready for everything else going on today. And we'll lay it all out for you and let you know that it's a busy time. It is a busy time with playoffs and such and everything all over the place. But tonight, Morning Dell. It is 7 o'clock pregame, 7:30 kick. MLS Next Pro here on the SDH Network. It is Chattanooga FC as we await for a derby name. And this is where I think Jarrett will come into play. And maybe Tyler Pilgrim coming up in just a little bit. What do we name the derby between Chattanooga FC and Atlanta United 2? It's at the Fraction tonight. And it is kickoff a little after 7:30. It'll be me, Jarrett, and Maddie hanging out with you in Kennesaw. So looking forward to that one. And seeing how Atlanta United 2 responds after two very, very deep losses in the sense that they've been outscored 9-1 in their last two games. How do they respond to this one? They've got another opportunity to flush but not forget and see how the lessons come tonight against Rod Underwood and Chattanooga FC. Once again, 7 o'clock pregame, 7:33 kick with me, Maddie, and Jared on the network here at Soccer Down Here. And you can go to our Mixler site and you can catch all of our action there, all of our live stuff. Download the Mixler app, MIXLR, and you can get all of our live content. You set your notifications. You follow Soccer Down Here. When we've got a game going on, then you'll know about it. If you want to access it through web browsers, right there, soccerdownhere.mixler.com, and you can listen on the web. You can sit at your computer and do whatever you want to do at 7 o'clock at night, tonight anyway. And you can listen to us that way. So web, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. If you believe in downloading apps and have enough space on your phone, download the Mixler app, and then you can follow Soccer Down Here. And then when we have a live event, then you can just click on it and listen to it through the Mixler app. And thanks to everybody who was part of what happened last night. Last night, it was a Tuesday night playoff throwdown on the SDH Network. In 7A girls, it was Mill Creek and North Gwinnett at Tom Robinson Memorial Stadium. It went for a while. It was a fun one. I mean, it was a hot crowd, and you love that because you have two schools and coaching staffs that are intertwined throughout Gwinnett County in their histories. Two schools where they know each other, and you hang out in academy, you hang out in club, you hang out with each other when you're not in school, and you get a lot of support from both student bodies and from a lot of parents as well. And it went for 120 minutes, or went for 100 minutes. And you ended up in the, 116th minute. It's our moment to get you ready for what's going on here today in the playoffs. It was 1-1 until it wasn't. Here was the eventual game winner, courtesy of Jason's voice on the network late last night.
Defender, but the Hawks are able to run it down and clear. Barley settles it, plays it down the middle. Issa Ponza heads it forward. Stokely goes down. Here comes North Gwinnett. Furry is out for it. Doesn't win it. Shots into the back of the net. Goal! 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 North Gwinnett! On a scramble, as it ended up falling forward. Mill Creek valiantly tried to find a way to clear it. They were unable to do so. Furry came out to try to get to it. But Wesley Istone Haupt is able to put it into the back of the net. Not the prettiest of goals, but if it gets the Bulldogs to the quarterfinal, it'll be the most beautiful goal of their season.
Wesley Stone Haupt with her 12th of the year in the 100 or the 90. Let's see 16 plus 96th minute, and she ends up with the eventual game winner. So great crowd last night. Thanks to everybody who was listening. Thanks to everybody that was a part of it, and thanks to the North Gwinnett coaching staff for hanging out with us. And Ryan Burkhart got to hang out with Jason on Atlanta Soccer Tonight. You can listen to that interview on the Off the Woodwork podcast. Go to 92.9 The Game, go to podcast Off the Woodwork, Atlanta Soccer Tonight. And 20 minutes in, you get to listen to Jason hanging out with Ryan Burkhart. And thanks to everybody there at North Gwinnett, AD Matt Champito, and all the coaches and everybody, both teams. We had both starting coaches on yesterday on Soccer's in Session. And it was great to catch up with Vince Hayes and Ryan Burkhart and everybody for both of those teams. At noon on the network, it'll be Soccer's in Session, day 2, round 2. And we'll get you ready for tonight. We'll have a bit of a tease, hopefully, coming up later in hour number 2 here on the show. But, yeah, we'll go over all the brackets, all the results, get you ready for today. There were some matches that didn't happen last night, and we'll get you ready with the schedule for today. So it'll be a fun one for all of us coming up at noon. I think we're going to finally get to be able to catch up with Phil Thomas from River Ridge, Chris Leone, as they get ready for their trip on the boys' side for North Gwinnett. So River Ridge and North Gwinnett get us started in Soccer's in Session coming up at noon here on the network. Okay, that was opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And there is your QR code for those of you who are watching, however you're watching us, whether it is on Twitch, it is on the 280-character app, it is on our YouTubes. You can click on that QR code, start your day with Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You hit that QR code, you check out, you use the code SoccerDownHere15, you get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives, stuff that they have earmarked as cool. Just ask Melissa Ortiz, because she is one of the co-founders. That reminds me, I need to put something in the mail for Melissa Ortiz and have her hang it in her office in New York. So Soccer Down Here 15 is your code. You get 15% off, and Kickoff Coffee takes 10%, reinvests it in the youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and at kickoffcoffeeco.com. Just so you know, it is May the 1st, according to Jonathan Tannenwald et al., as they say in Latin, and Michelle Kaufman as well. Michelle Kaufman says Copa America Finals tickets go on sale May 1st, and you can set your bank accounts accordingly. So, and apparently Reggie Bush is going to have his 2005 Heisman Award reinstated. So, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year for those of you who are celebrating from the University of Southern California. So, mazel tov to you. All right, it is 9:13. I'll round off. Since we got past 9:12:30 on the clock, I'll round off. So, you get past 2.5, you get to round up to 5. That's how we grade here on the show. And so it is a Wall Pass Wednesday, and our leadoff hitter on Wall Pass Wednesday is, as always, Tyler Pilgrim from our friends over at Scarves N Spikes. Scarves N Spikes. See, and I have to do it in the mirror, so it's like N Spikes, and hope that I get it right.
I don't know how you do an N with your fingers, but yeah.
Well, because if I'm looking at it and I'm doing it toward me, it's like this, and so it's like, okay, so I have to do it in reverse. So
yeah,
this way toward me, and then this way, the other way toward y'all.
It's fair enough.
All right. So first and foremost, the most important question of the segment: where's the mug and what's in it?
So no surprises. I'm doing the Scarves and Spikes one again.
Okay.
I was going to do the Great Wolf Lodge one.
A plug, I'm sure, at some point, as there should be.
I was out. We went to the Great Wolf Lodge this weekend, and I didn't get a new mug there, but I have the one that I have shared on the show before.
Okay.
And I just was too lazy to grab that one this morning.
But there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's all about proximity, and the thing is, we're as guys. I will present as my evidence this particular plastic cup.
Yeah.
And it comes from a kickoff classic at so it doesn't even, it does. It lists the venue.
I see August 31st of some year on there too.
Correct. And the venue is listed as Georgia Dome. So you know how old this cup is. And as a guy, we're just like, is anybody else touching it? No. It's our germs. I mean, it's like, look, I've touched it. No one else is touching it. No one else is going to, experience what I've experienced in this cup / mug / drinking container. So if it's okay for me, it's still going to be okay for me later.
Yeah.
And so as long as no one else touches it, then everything's fine. You don't get any of my cooties, you don't get any of my germs. None of that happens to you as long as you don't touch nothing. And it literally, I mean, it's like guys with all of their stuff, it's
Yeah. If that repository of choice liquid was
Mhm.
good yesterday,
Yeah.
it's good today.
This is what I'm saying. So this is where we are wired here as a part
Yeah.
of all of this stuff. Um I know that there was a story that is out now on the website. I believe that's what the kids call it, is a website.
Yes.
And there was some work that was done by the SNS crew about someone who puts butter in their coffee.
Yep.
And so you guys had the chance to catch up with Javier Armas over with the twos, and your timing once again kismet, considering Chattanooga FC is coming to town tonight. Some would think that might even be planning. What was it like for the SNS guys to catch up with someone who is growing into his role there with Atlanta United too, and has shown the three-dimensional thought that is needed at times for the positions that he plays?
So I think, with Javi, first of all, he's just a pleasant guy. Like soccer notwithstanding, like he's a nice guy. He's genuinely like happy to be a part of this organization. And Henry was the one. Shout out to Henry Higuita. He's the one that actually did the interview and wrote the article. But one of the things that Javi kept bringing up was he's living his dream. This is what he's wanted since he was a kid. And I think you saw a lot of it in the preseason, and it took people by surprise. Like he's a talented footballer. He really is.
Mm-hmm.
He has that Spanish, like very fundamental Spanish kind of flair to him. Both I think like personally and in his soccer.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think he plays at an IQ level above probably what you would expect coming out of college, but he spent so much time with the, La Coruña Academy, and like it was a good group that he grew up playing with. And so I only got to talk to him for a short bit of time yesterday when they did the interview because I had to go, but it was nice being able to meet him. And again, just a super like personable, nice guy. And like, you can tell knows the game, but is just like, it's not lost on him that he needs to live in the moment because he's now where he's been wanting to be for his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool to see.
Yeah, and when you get to see, and hey, he got to escape the Tupac, which is what is left of the Pac-10, 12, 14, however many it's left. So,
Yep.
From his time out west, he comes here, and to your point about what we saw in the preseason, it's like, okay, where did he pull that move from? You know? And you're just sitting there going, okay, dude's a warlock, man. And there are times where you're just sitting there going, whoa, we got to see what else is going on with Javi Armas.
And he can take, well, I think the thing that stood out to me first when I first saw him play, I don't know if he played in Birmingham. I can't remember, but I know he played in Athens. And I remember in Athens, it stood out to me that he was immediately, when he came on, the first choice to take free kicks and corner kicks, and how good he is at them. And I mean, he's already scored one this year with the twos. I think it's one. It might have been two. I don't know. But I know he scored. Yeah, it's either way. But I mean, he's talented, right? He's got a little bit of flair to him. He's tricky, but he's that midfielder that has the attitude that you want, right? To kind of help lay down the law when need be. But he's just a fun guy, though,
And maybe to quote the Beastie Boys, he's crafty. And so when you have guys like that, they're real fun watches. And if you're in the northwest part of town or want to make the trip tonight, it is the Twos in Chattanooga FC, and that'll be on the network pregame at 7, a little after 7:30 for kick. Do you have any clue what this derby should be named, by the way? Has this been rattled around in the SNS offices as to what we should call Chattanooga FC VS period ATLUTD2?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. So Chattanooga FC, like I love that club. I really do, because they were there during the time when the Silverbacks were not and Atlanta United was not.
Mhm.
you know, and we go to Chattanooga so much, and it's just like a second home to us. So like, I thought a lot about this actually,
Oh, okay, cool.
and I haven't really come up with anything like that just kind of hit home, but like there's some good ones because I was trying to figure out like what ties the two cities together, and I think the biggest one is their kind of shared history of being like railroad towns.
Okay.
And so this one, I'm only saying this because it it has the wordplay in it.
Okay. Yeah.
So
No, go for it. Yeah.
choo choo challenge. All
Okay.
right.
All right.
But I cannot in good conscience call a derby the choo choo challenge.
Okay.
So another one was
Choo choo challenge after.
the what was it? The
Uh-huh.
train wreck tussle was one
Okay.
that popped up.
Okay.
Um
The
But I
the
haven't really come up with anything good as far as like, typically you say like the whatever derby,
yes. Yeah.
or rivalry. And I just haven't really come up with anything that makes it sound good using those words.
The age of aquariums.
Um Wait. Oh yeah, that's true. That is true. You have two really big ones.
Uh-huh.
That's a good tie-in.
The Little Debbie Derby.
Ah, yeah, with the moon pies.
Uh-huh.
And
Because the
little
little Debbie's offices are in suburban Chattanooga.
Yeah, you could do Little Debbie and then something with the moon pies. How
Oh.
they man, I didn't even think about the aquarium though, or the Little Debbie. There's also, I mean, if you wanted to go the fast food route,
Yeah.
um,
When you gotta
pick
have it, you gotta
one.
have it. Yeah.
Pick one in Atlanta, but then you also have Crystal in
Yes.
Chattanooga.
Absolutely.
Um,
Let's see. So something with squares. Something involving squares. So that is officially the QOD. What in the wide world of sports do we call this rivalry between Atlanta United 2 and Chattanooga FC? That is the $1 million question. What
there's
is
some
this
good ones in
rivalry?
the chat.
Yeah. So let's see. So we've got the trial on the tracks. Alex Bassine's on fire this morning. So Alex Bassine has the trial on the tracks. He changed his preposition. So yes, David, Cokes and moon pies. We gotta think about that. Kefsey says he feels like Colorado might fight about it. How old is Chris Armisen? Can he pass up Nick Firmino? They play the same position. The two tracks tussle. And so Kefsey seconds the trial on the tracks. Looks like early returns of the trial on the tracks. We were trying to think of something with I-75. We were trying to think of something, but yeah, literally as you were going through everything that's in Chattanooga, I was like, oh, the age of aquariums.
Yeah, the aquarium was a good one. I wasn't even thinking that route. And I love the Tennessee Aquarium. I
Mm-hmm.
love it. And I obviously love the Georgia one as well, except the fact that it's packed all the time. So
Mm-hmm. Yes. So so Kefsey was saying it's about the Mountain View. My bad. Okay. So Alex isn't wearing his
that was the other one, and I couldn't think of anything good. But like you have Lookout Mountain, and like it's famous for being in Tennessee, but most of it's actually in Georgia.
Yeah.
So I thought that could be like a good point of contention. But I mean, there's nothing that like L, right?
Yeah.
Like what would work with Lookout Mountain?
The Lookout Mountain lockup.
That's solid. I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
So maybe this is something that SNS puts to its readers as well. It's like
this is a we're going to have to figure this out.
Yes, so it's what we figure out with this derby. And for Steve Cook and for Atlanta United too, it's an opportunity once again to flush but not forget, considering what has happened over the last two matches with FC Cincinnati 2 and Philadelphia Union 2, who are, as you normally would associate, they are your second clubs. They have the DNA and the thought pattern of your parent clubs. And with Philadelphia, it was two absolute golazos. And if you go back and listen to Jason's call, there was some adventurous officiating. We'll go ahead and phrase it that way.
Yep.
And then with FC Cincinnati 2 on the weekend, it's the battle that you traditionally have with all of your second teams. It's like you have first team players coming down for insert reason here, reps, injury, rehab. You've got the second team players that are there consistently. Then you have the academy folks that are brought in, and it's trying to come up with that Venn diagram and the jigsaw puzzle of trying to figure out how the pieces fit. And now you're going up against, as Steve has said tonight, a team that is its own first team. I mean, it's like this is not CFC2. This is Chattanooga Football Club coming in with experienced players, and it will be interesting to see what the mix will be tonight for Atlanta United too.
And they're good. It's not like this is this is their first team, but they're a solid team. They really are, and they play really good football. I know y'all have had Coach Rod on the show. We've had him on the show last year. Like, his philosophy to the game is very disciplined, and he gets everything I think he possibly can out of his players. And so I think anybody that maybe doesn't pay much attention to Next Pro might look at this match, and at face value, they might see, oh, well, Chattanooga's the newcomers. Like, they're not going to be that great. They're going to have that newcomer syndrome.
Not so fast, my friend.
That is not even kind of close to the truth. So like this one, how I would argue that going into this 3-game stretch, it would be maybe Philly notwithstanding, because Philly has a great academy and a great pipeline. But I would argue that this match would be the one I would have been most fearful about, because a lot of, like what you said, they are a first team and they are out for blood. They want to play the game, and they're going to come out hot. They're going to come out. And for them, MLS Next Pro is about winning MLS Next Pro. It's not like of course, you're going to want to move up to bigger, better leagues, whatever. I get that. But for Chattanooga FC, for Carolina Core, like for some of these teams, they're going into it. This is their league, and they're going to want to win it. And so that's what they're going to shoot for.
Yep. Right now, as things stand in the Southeast, Chattanooga is leading the division with the win that they got on the weekend. And they are 2 points ahead of Messi and Friends B. And Purple Team is in third. I think it was Hunt City, if I'm not mistaken. So Chattanooga's at 12 points, and they are through 5 matches. They're right now on top in the Southeast Division and making a statement in the Eastern Conference. So the elongated plug for going to watch the twos tonight. You get to see and we got into this discussion yesterday about Atlanta United 2, and there were some folks on the media that is social saying it's a hard watch. And I was positing as a part of the discussion that you are there to have people learn. Yes, winning is a part of it, but you're also there to make sure that the younger players learn about what it's like in the club, what it's like to have this philosophy and learn and grow inside this philosophy. And yes, there are some growing pains that are associated with it, but then you get to see the end result of individuals like a Noah Cobb, who's been in the system since he was 15 and been playing USL Championship, playing up against folks twice his age, not backing down. You're seeing what Noah's up to. Efren Morales is another example of that here at Center Back University, as I call it, where you have all of these guys. Tony Annan thought Efren Morales was a center back, literally. Yep. And so you see what Efra's doing, and now Efra's the next one in line. And to continue to see folks like Aiden Torres, Caden Moore, all of these folks and those folks that are there on the twos deals, like Noble Okello, who we saw with Toronto FC. And so all of these, and Javi Armas. So you get to see all these different things coming together. Yes, it is a difficult jigsaw puzzle. Yes, the staff enjoys that challenge and tries to integrate it as best they can on a day-to-day basis. But you get to sit there and see, yeah, I saw them win. And so that was, that's what you're staring at here with Atlanta United too.
Yeah. So on the show last week, it was actually funny because Tommy, he asked me on the live show, sell me on watching the twos.
Whoa.
And
okay.
Yeah. And my answer was, you have to go into it with the mindset that you're watching individual players. Like, if you get a win, that's a bonus. I mean, go to support them. Like, if you're near Kennesaw, go watch them, because Fifth Third is just a fun venue because you're so close, right? You're right there. You can hear everything on the pitch. Literally.
Yeah, you can.
Yep. But yeah, they may go and they may have rough matches. They may have really rough matches, but watch the Luke Brennans, watch the Aiden Torreses, watch, the moments like when an Ashton Gordon gets to play, or, some of these guys, and just think about what could be as they continue to grow, because what they are now is not going to be the same thing they are a year from now or 4 years from now. So yeah, I mean, you're going to see an identity, and I think we see that week in and week out, but also you're not looking at a polished prime first team when you watch the twos and most to like academy, feeder teams in MLS Next Pro. You're not seeing a full product at this point. So you don't go to it with the same mindset that you're going to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and you're watching the first team play. So yeah, I mean, if you want to have a deeper knowledge of what could be in a couple of years, we were shouting all the things about Noah Cobb years ago.
Yep.
We were shouting all the things about Luke Brennan years ago, and all that's coming to fruition. Nick Firmino, another one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not as long, but another one.
Yeah.
So it's just, you just can't go into it with the same mindset that you're watching a Division I team. It's just, that's not what it is. But go and have fun. Mostly, like, go have fun, because it is a fun venue. It's a fun place to go. And going back to Javier Armas, like, one of the things he said in that interview yesterday was like, come out and support us, because soccer players, like, we thrive on playing in full stadiums. And understandably, like, Fifth Third Bank might not be full, but they have a decent turnout and it could be better. Go enjoy it. Like, tickets are cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Go have fun, and then you go, like, for this one tonight, go watch Chattanooga FC, which is a good football team. They're local. If you then want to go see them play, they're in hour and a half, 2 hour drive, like, it just expand your horizons a little bit just because it's fun.
Yeah. And so it is all a part of the three-dimensional approach that we like to talk about here is support your local clubs. And if it's NPSL in your own, in your own part of the world, if it's an NPSL club, great. If it's a Gulf Coast Premier League team, great. If it's an MLS Next Pro, great. If it's, USL League One, fantastic. USL Championship, whatever. Support your local clubs, and you can sit there and be a part of helping grow the game and exposing it to others. And, it's like, they told two friends, and so on and so on and so on. And that way you can spread the education of what's going on and spread the support for a club, which is what we're all here for anyway, because we've always said rising tide lifts all boats. And the twos are an example of that, where you can have that education and you can have that knowledge base and tell others about what's going on, and they can become more knowledgeable and they can become engaged. And it turns into a great circle that you can have with Atlanta United too, as we're talking about in this instance.
Yeah. My middle son, the one that is actively playing a lot this year, so the first time he got to see Fifth Third was actually at the Open Cup, the disastrous Open Cup last year.
Okay.
Which we will not speak of anymore. But
mm-hmm.
He got to see the venue, and then he got to see kind of like how intimate it is and how like close you get, and just how fun it is. And then they went back with the opener this year. I was there covering it. They were down in the stands.
Sure.
He had been asking to go back since that Open Cup match. And like, for us, it's a drive. It's a drive.
Yes.
Quite the drive. But it's something that we're trying to do more of this year, because, for one, like, he enjoys it because it's just a different atmosphere. But, you got to think too, if some of you guys have kids, like, you're seeing some of these kids that are playing that are, 15, 16. Aiden Torres just turned 16 like a month ago.
I know.
So in a way, it's a little bit of a more, I think, an inspiration than maybe going and seeing somebody like Thiago Almada, who in a lot of ways seems like that's just that superstar that's going to be a level that's very difficult to get to. Not impossible. I'll never say that.
Mm-hmm.
But, you see a kid like Aiden Torres or like Caleb Wiley, who has spent most of their life here in the same town that you're growing up in as a kid. Like, I think it adds just a different familiarity to it. And yeah, then of course, just like supporting them in the same way that you would the first team is important, because it gives them the ability to kind of thrive on that environment, whereas they might not somewhere else.
And you can yell at officials at close range too.
Yes, which my son did, and then I heard about it later.
And they can hear you too. And so,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and that's, you could be LGP and just yell at officials and be one of the large voices there at Fifth Third. So if you can make it tonight, fantastic. We'll love to see you once again. 7:00 pregame, a little after 7:30 kick. Me, Jarrett, and Maddie on the SDH network with Chattanooga FC and Atlanta United too. You can't escape it before we go forward. Now that we've gotten into the midweek, after what's happened the last two times out, and it is 5 points left on the table, What has I will go away from the weekend and I will focus on Monday and Tuesday since we see you on Wednesdays. What has been the overarching conversation pieces there at SNS about Atlanta United as they're getting ready for a match in Chicago against a team that I think, once again, still having issues down the left-hand side because not everybody's back at full strength. Chase Gasper's still out. Andrew Gutman was on the bench last time. You're still trying to figure out what to do at left back. I think opportunities are there for Atlanta United going forward in this match against the Fire at the Spaceship on the weekend.
I think, one of the things that we've talked about a lot is you have to win this game.
Yeah.
Because, we can talk about the road record all day and beat the dead horse all day. This one wouldn't be as big of a deal had you not dropped 5 points in the last 2 matches. And you could even argue you dropped 7 because you go back to New York City. And I mean, either team could have won that game, but Atlanta could have won that game very easily. And so in a way, that one feels a little bit like a tough pill to swallow, but nothing like Philly and Cincinnati. Philly and Cincinnati are great teams. You can tell the scouting that they did going into these matches. Chicago is not a great team. I mean, objectively, like they're not a great team. They're struggling. And so take away the road aspect. You've got to win this game. You have to get 3 points. Like Shaqiri, who has admittedly not been as great as he should have been, probably won't even play anyway. And you've already beat them once recently. So if there's any game that you need to turn around a lot of things that are going on right now, it's this one, because, you always want the road win because you need it. You need to improve your road record. Was such a focal point in the preseason. And then you've got to start getting 3 points because you think about what could have been. We always do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what could have been had they done what they needed to do in the past 3 matches, they would be sitting in first or second right now. And so that's frustrating. As far as matchups, like I've done a little bit of like looking into it. I feel like we just did it for, the previous match.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think Chicago overall is just weaker in just about every position than Atlanta. And I think if there's one thing, like Atlanta wants to focus inward, they have got to get the same work rate out of the left wing as they are getting out of Saba on the right wing. And we can have a discussion about Saba, who I think has just been the unluckiest man on the planet with finishing lately.
Yeah.
He's doing all the great things. He leads the team. No, I'm sorry. He is 0.2 behind Giakoumakis in expected goals. He's at 3 right now. Giakoumakis is 3.2. He's getting in all the right places, doing all the right things. He's defensively actually been really good, and he has gotten no credit for that. But you're not quite getting the same production out of the left-hand side. Of course, injuries, you've had a lot going on there.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to focus inward, like Pineda and all of the players have talked about this year, you're going to have to find something that makes that left side work as well as Saba and Brooks do on the right. And maybe that's just getting healthy. I don't know. But I do think that Atlanta can go into this match and just out-talent Chicago in pretty much every position on the field.
When we've been focusing on the left, I mean, yes, it is a bit of a loose construct anyway, because we'll sit there and the starting 11 as it is pictured, sometimes not accurately, but formationally anyway. Formations we've always thought of as a bit of a loose construct. So, yes, you're in a 4-3-3. Yes, these players are in the graphic that we see on television. But as soon as the whistle goes, what you've seen in that television graphic will not always apply. It is not a static kind of a thing.
Yep.
We have seen Saba start on the right-hand side. There have been times when Gonzalo Pineda has called for a switch, and we see Saba creating problems on the left. So, is it, until it is figured out what happens on the left, and what I would posit is, and Jarrett is probably along these same lines, is that Mosqueda right now is probably right at his best as one of those super subs that gives you 20 or 30 and comes in and runs against tired legs at a back line and drives them crazy. Tyler Wolff has had opportunities. And I think that with Shonde Silva, Shonde seems to be a rhythm guy. It's like you bring him in, he hits that first jumper, you keep feeding him. And if he's not hitting the jump shot, then you try to feed him to get the shooter out of the slump, and then we see where it is. But I think that injuries also where Shonde is concerned are injuries where Shonde, yeah, I did have that right with subject verb agreement. where Shonde is concerned, injuries kind of take him that extra step back. And so you've got to get him into game rhythm, and then you've got to get him into rhythm when it comes to shooting and being active on the left. And so you're stuck with this. You're stuck with multiple questions on the left-hand side, and that was why Cincinnati flopped Miles from right center back to left center back to guard against Saba and Brooks coming down the Atlanta attacking right and say, okay, tell you what, you're going to have to beat us with activity off the left-hand side or big switches in moments. And so, that worked for Cincinnati on the weekend, flopping Miles and trying to protect against Brooks and Saba getting after you.
Yeah, and admittedly, like Brooks and Saba gave Miles Robinson hell. Like it was, they did well. I mean, but Miles did well too, and Miles paid for it with his body a couple of times. But
yeah, we talked about the one alleged incident that raised the people's eyebrow, at least here on
yeah, a little sketch, but yeah,
yeah. Learning the ways of the dark arts at Philadelphia Light. Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, and my wife was even saying like,
wow.
Yeah. We were just getting back from our anniversary from the Great Wolf Lodge, and we were watching the game, and she was like, wow, they've changed Miles Robinson. I was like, it didn't take long, did it? But no, I mean, I think you're spot on with the Shonde thing. Like he's a flair guy. And I don't just mean flair as in like the dribbly boy kind of stuff. Like he feeds off of, I think, a lot of things like the crowd. I think that is very, very much like he's a personality guy. He really is. And if he can get going, man, he's fun to watch, and he's going to create opportunities and he's going to create chances. But if he's not, you have the team, coaching staff, everybody has to figure out a way to get him involved. Yeah. Because when he is involved, he's one of the better left wingers in MLS. But unfortunately, there's just it's not been, I think, good enough at this point. But yeah, choppiness, injuries notwithstanding, like I still don't think you need to like make any moves. Yeah. But with the Mosquera thing, I think I was screaming from the rooftops, and a lot of people disagreed with me that Tyler Wolff should have started this match, and you just brought in Edwin as you did, as that guy that causes absolute chaos.
Yes.
On tired legs, because it's worked every single time. It's worked. Like when he does this, when he comes in the 60th minute or whatever, he is uncontrolled chaos. And somebody mentioned it. And I'm so sorry because I'm not going to give credit to the right person, but it was mentioned in a tweet or somewhere, Discord, that he is so chaotic that he doesn't even know how to control his own chaos, which is true. I think his decision making, maybe a little bit in the final third, is just like, it's almost like his body's moving too quick for his mind to figure out what to do. That's okay though. Like he is a much more refined product than he was a year ago, and he's still tracking in the right direction. And I like Edwin Mosquera a lot. I just don't. I think he earned the starting spot. That narrative has been thrown out. He earned that starting spot. I just don't think he needed to have it because he's so much more effective being a super sub, quote unquote. I think you go into this one against Chicago, and if Shonde cannot start, I think you throw Tyler Wolff out there. And I know people might not like that. There's been some, arguments about Tyler.
Right.
I still think you start him. He's still getting in the right places. He just hasn't been finishing. He, hasn't maybe had like the great season that he had last year so far.
Right.
But yeah, give him time. Let him tire out whoever he can tire out. And then you bring on Edwin and let Edwin do what he does. And I think you'll have success there.
Injuries, that was 5 2 weeks ago. It was less than 5, rounding off various stages of getting back healthy. Gigi came in and gave you 30. And that list of 5 seems to be getting smaller and smaller and smaller, where Stian seems to be getting closer to making his appearances. Don't think we have I think Derek is still another couple of weeks away at the back. I'm trying to think of, I don't know. I don't think we have a Jamal update yet.
So I can run through if you want me to.
Run them. Go for it.
I can run because I was there yesterday and I was trying to keep an eye on him.
Give me my updates from yesterday, sir.
All right. So let's see. Stian Gregerson came out he didn't have like a brace on his leg or anything. He came out, trained with the first team.
Okay.
He trained all the way up until the very last drill that they did. So he trained, let's say 80% of the day with the team.
Got it.
Jamal Tiare is progressing much faster than I think they thought.
Mm-hmm.
He was out yesterday. I think training on his own, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Derek Williams was training on his own. He was running right there in front of us. So he was just kind of doing stuff with the physios. Shonday also doing stuff with the physios. And I think the thought process behind that is he was good to be a sub last weekend, but they're also not trying to force too much.
Yeah.
So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't start again this weekend. I think it's going to be Tyler Wolf or Mosquera.
Mm-hmm.
But he's on his way. And then let's see, I'm missing
Noah and the migraine.
Yes, that was okay. So Noah, first one back out to the training ground as always. Very first one out of the building onto the pitch. And apparently he's feeling good. He's all set. He had a migraine to where he literally could not see well. And it sucks because he was having such a good game, I thought. But yeah, he's over it. And it was just one of those freak things. Hopefully that's not like, some people just have those like consistent migraines that they just pop up whenever. Hopefully that's not a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's everybody.
Yeah, that's not allowed. Continual migraines not allowed. But that is, when we caught up with Abe Gordon on Monday, Abe suffers from migraines, and his affect him differently when it's not the way that it affected Noah there at 45. But migraines affect folks in different ways, and to hear about Noah and getting back out there, you're hoping that it is something that can be monitored / controlled, and that Noah comes through it and keeps track of his migraines, and that the migraines behave, I guess, is probably what I'm saying when it comes to.
Yeah, and I also know, like, again, I always mention that about Noah with him being the first one out of the building, because I think it shows his character. Like, it shows he wants this so bad. So he would not have been okay being subbed out at halftime if he didn't have an issue. Like he had to come out. So, I mean, yeah, I know people that get migraines that are just like incapacitating. And apparently this was one of those for Noah.
Yeah, you've got to go into a dark room, shut it down, lay on a sofa, leave me alone, don't talk to me, because I can see your words and they're vibrating in front of my face.
Yep.
You can't navigate those kinds of things.
Yep.
We had the trade deadline, the transfer deadline, the early one anyway, before the rules change in the summer. And we get to either add a DP or a U22 and go 3-3 or whatever with the new rules coming up in the summer. And yesterday it was another edition for Messi and friends. You get an injury, it's like lose one, get one. Literally, it's like you're sitting there and it's like I'm shifting players, and now they brought in yet another player. I wish, for the love of all that is holy, there you go, properly hydrate, yes, that we knew what the rules of engagement were and where folks were going up against the cap, because you put Gomez on the shelf for 6 weeks, then you bring in Matias Rojas, and it is a loan toward the end of this season with another couple of years behind it as options. But I know that folks are going to look at the team at the top of the Eastern Conference and sit there and go, bruh, how do you do this? And yes, it might be financial witchcraft from Chris Henderson, but once again, I think that it screams that we need to know, especially coming up toward deadlines and going into trade periods, where things stand with folks and why folks can do what they do. And I think it's one of the things that is one of the big items at the top of my list to get more transparency when it comes to the financials in this league. because people are raising their going, dude, how do you do this? And Chris Henderson's like, yep, I got it covered.
Yeah, I'm good, and I'm not going to reveal any secrets because right now I've figured out the cheat code and I'm using it, and I'm not telling it to anybody. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
same in LA with Giroux. It's like, okay, so seriously, you're bringing in Olivier Giroux.
Yep.
You're bringing Giroux, like the one of the most handsome men in all of soccer. You're bringing him in, John Thornton. Yep.
Like, what are you offering? Like Atlanta. I don't know that you can do this in the roster rules. I'm sure you can because I mean they kind of did it with Messi with the Apple TV deal and stuff. But like, we have Coke.
Yeah, you got to do an NIL deal here somehow.
Yeah, we've got like so many giant corporations that I'm sure would be totally happy sponsoring some big time players to come to Atlanta. If we pay them $1 and yet they're making tons of money from a giant corporate sponsor, hey man, like let's jump in that boat. If that's how we got to get around fake monopoly money and GAM or whatever, do it. I don't care. But yeah, I mean, I would just love to see the spreadsheet for some of these teams. I'm curious. And admittedly, like I could care less what every other team except for Atlanta does, with the caveat that I just want to look at Miami's and say, like, what are y'all doing? I just want to know. So somebody's going to write a book on it one day.
Yeah. So you're paying him $52,000 and giving him a massive 7-figure apartment in Boynton Beach or whatever. You know, it's literally the NIL deals in Major League Soccer would be fantastic to find out about. And it literally, it's like you're going with all of these big names. Sure, you're only paying Hugo Lloris $300,000. Is Jason
Right.
like, yes. And you know, you have Messi all over the place with the ads. Speaking of that and his deal, it is in the ether that Apple might be signing the contract for the Club World Cup.
Yeah.
And that might make things more interesting and might draw more eyeballs to Major League Soccer if they sign the Club World Cup. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Club World Cup has wild cards that they can introduce into the tournament in this new 720 team format that they're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And what do you bet? I'm thinking out loud. Hear me out here for a second. If Apple was to get the Club World Cup, and you can go ahead and start the helicopter noises in the background if you want. If Apple was
close the windows, John.
Yeah, you know, if Apple was to get the Club World Cup, say, ... perhaps, maybe, like I said, I'll when you give the answer, I'll do the search on the wild card thing. But I thought I saw somewhere that there could be wild card entrants in the Club World Cup in 2025. So if Apple was to say, oh, I don't know, get the contract and get the streaming rights, A, it would draw more eyes to their Major League Soccer product. B, there is a club that is in this Major League Soccer product, if this wild card status does in fact exist, that you know might have a bit of a player with a bit of a tie to subscribers and earning more money if folks decide that they want to up for Apple TV. I'm just thinking that maybe, possibly, for a wild card in this Club World Cup, that you could find a way for a particular club down in South Florida to be in this tournament that you might be getting the streaming rights for. I mean, I'm thinking out loud, you know, it's just something that's popping into my head, Tyler. It's there. And I feel like Gilbert Gottfried. It's right there. It's just it's a thought. It's just like, well, what if we have this team over here that's in the property that's attached to Apple TV, and then Apple TV has this thing? What if, you know, this team that's over here that's, you know, separated by this one entity and idea? What if this team was to, oh, I don't know, jump over and leapfrog into this third pot here for the Club World Cup? Am I far off?
I can't imagine where you're getting that from. I can't imagine that was just pulled out of thin air.
I'm just, you know, it was just something that
I can literally hear Don Garber driving to the bank as we speak.
But I mean, if 1 + 1 = 11, then you're ending up with it, and you're like, okay, Club World Cup, you're expanding into like 9 gazillion folks,
Yeah.
and with the U.S. hosting the tourney, 32 teams, 8 groups, 4 teams.
It would only make sense. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm looking at the list of teams now so far. I mean, of course, we have time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have. Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. You have your 4 CONCACAF teams,
Uh-huh.
which right now are Monterrey,
Uh-huh.
Seattle Sounders,
Uh-huh.
Leon, and then
Uh-huh.
to be determined.
Uh-huh.
So that one will go to the winner of the Champions Cup for this year.
Uh-huh.
But then
Uh-huh.
separated down below UEFA, OFC, and CONMEBOL,
Mhm.
you have the host slot that also belongs to CONCACAF.
Ah.
So
Ah.
there's your answer,
Ah.
or at least part of your answer.
Okay.
The hosting slot will go to I'm sure it's gonna be like
Yeah.
Sharknado FC.
I mean, it could be our buddy John Schuster and our friends at Duluth FC out of the NPSL.
There we go.
You could have some curling going on in the opening ceremonies. So I'm not far off with that host slot idea.
No, I think you're spot on. I
Okay.
think that's exactly what's going to happen. Because let's see, you have
Mm-hmm.
where does Philly fall into this? Philly falls into this somewhere. Uh,
Probably in the CONCACAF hemispheric considerations.
yeah, I'm trying to see. I don't know. I'll have to read this later, but yeah, I'll have to read this later and figure it out. But
Yes.
yeah, I mean, those are the 4. Well, those are the 3. Plus, you have 2 spots left over. One being the host team.
Yes, the host team. Yes.
Yeah.
And so perhaps, in a new stadium that is allegedly, possibly, probably being constructed near an airport in South Florida that's really off of a golf course.
Can't imagine how this was all planned out.
I'm just saying. It was an idea. So when is the next live SNS, sir?
That is going to be tonight.
Okay.
And at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Are
you going to be live from Kennesaw doing the show?
No, that would be really cool. Actually, I would love to do that if I can make it happen. Because I really wanted to see this game in person. I really did. The twos in Chattanooga.
Just do it on your phone. Just literally, you go to the match. You're in the press box. You're hanging out with the rest of us, and Sid and Tommy are in their imitation palatial studios, and you're actually live on the scene, and not allowed to show any actual game video. So I mean, hi, I'm here in Kennesaw. It's pointed at you in the stands, and I'm having a great old time. Where are you two? I'm here in my office.
Tommy, I'm here in Ohio.
Yeah, Tommy,
that great state of the union.
Yes, Tommy's in Ohio. I mean, Tommy should go either to Northern Kentucky University and go see FCC2, or go to historic Crew Stadium and go check out Crew 2. I mean, that's go.
I keep telling him.
It's like,
I keep telling him he's all hyped up because they're potentially, well, I guess there's talk of Cleveland getting a women's team.
Okay, and there's also I think there's also a USL franchise that's headed to Cleveland in the next couple of years too. So
yep. So
yes,
he's excited.
Invest and invest well. As always, my friend, thanks for coming on for All Pass Wednesdays and sharing your wisdom. How can folks follow along on all of the media that Scarves and Spikes are up to?
Twitter /X, whatever.
Yeah.
Is Scarves, the letter N, Spikes. And then scarvesandspikes.com is probably the easiest place to go because it's got all the links and all the good stuff. And then, yeah, I'm ATL Pilgrim, as you can see on the screen.
Buy the gear.
Huh?
Buy the gear and buy the stuff.
Oh, yes, please. Coffee mug, beer glass, hat, hoodie, whatever. Walking billboard here.
Yeah.
Not on purpose. It's just I feel like if I don't wear this hoodie now, I'm rapidly running out of days in Georgia that I can wear it. So
I mean, that's why when we're here in the air conditioned environs, we're always repping we're always repping the gear. So as always, great to catch up with you, my friend. We will see you next home match. We'll probably talk to you before then, but on to Chicago and on to Chattanooga FC. Be safe.
All right, thank you. I will drop some Derby names in the chat.
Yes, Derby names in the chat. So that is the QOD. So Tyler's going to do that. He's going to continue to be hydrated, and we will catch up with him when he feels like he wants to crash the show. So Derby names. That's the question of the day. Derby names for the broadcast coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. Atlanta United 2, Chattanooga FC from the Fraction. What do you call it? I know we had some good stuff early on, and we need to continue all of those kinds of things. I know that there's got to be something attached to Lookout. The Lookout Lowdown might be the name of the show that talks about the particular rivalry. The Lowdown the Lookout Lockup. There we go. Lookout Lockup. Something like that. But yes, the Age of Aquarium, the Lookout Lockup, and I forget what the other one was that I came up with on short notice. But all of those are in consideration. So we need the Little Debbie Derby. We need to come up with a good rivalry name for Atlanta United 2 and Chattanooga FC. So that is part of our quest this morning. Coming up at 10:45, as a bit of a tease for Soccer's in Session, we're going to catch up with Christopher Aiken, the head coach at Clark Central, as they're getting ready for their match tonight. We'll catch up with him a little bit, get you ready for Soccer's in Session coming on at noon. It's going to be Philip Thomas, the head coach at River Ridge, Chris Leone, the head coach on the boys' side for North Gwinnett. And we'll get you ready for the brackets in day 2 of round 2. It is the boys' side in all the odd-numbered classes, 7A, 5A, 3A, single A divisions 1 and 2. We'll go over all the matchups and all the finals that happened last night. That'll be here on the network at noon Eastern. And we'll roll through everything that's going on when it comes to the official GHSA soccer playoffs. Our next match is tomorrow in Perry, where it is Trinity Christian and our dear friend Jessica Charman, who is on the coaching staff, taking on the Perry Panthers. So Trinity Christian at Perry, 6 o'clock kick. Jason will be on a little before 6. We'll be in Middle Georgia for that one. And really looking forward to seeing our friends, the Perry Panthers, because they also are right there. Perry soccer. Very, very cool stuff. All right. So getting ready for hour number 2. Let me say hi to everybody, because I haven't had the chance to say hi to folks this morning. So morning, Del. Morning, Alex. Morning, Tom. And Tom going complete and total. Was it King Arthur? Yeah. A horse, my kingdom for a horse. So that's where Tom is this morning, but substitute the word point. Morning, Dell, and morning, Kefsey. Ooh, best view of a mountain from the stadium outside of Monterey. Ooh, that's wow. Monterey's a tough one to beat, though. Monterey, not Monterey like California, like Monterey Bay when they play at CSU East Bay. While that is a pretty stadium and a pretty campus. If somebody was near Pepperdine, I would say that. But Pepperdine's on-campus facilities with right there in the Palos Verdes mountain range, pretty close. But once again, it's Monterey and the mountain range. It's gorgeous. I think Kefsey, honestly, I think that might be the leading contender, unless you go to I think Como. But it's not a mountain range. It's like water, and then there's the ones in the Faroe Islands that are right there in the middle of the island, and it's like this small archipelago kind of a thing. So mountains, Monterey might have it beat. So that might be number 1 with the mountains, unless it's maybe in Andorra or something, or our friends from Austria that we had going on. Trial on the Tracks, Coke and Moon Pie. Let's see. The 2-track tussle, Trial on the Tracks. Let's see. David, I can't say that. Glad you're having that conversation. Morning, Kefsey. Alex and Kefsey with the thought. Chattanooga does mean rock rising to a point about Lookout. So the rock/stone is a common point. Probably brought in by both. Probably in Alabama probably has a say about it too. Well, that's partly ours. 3 states with Lookout Mountain in 1 range. Kefsey on Atlanta United. When the defense is set, most of the forwards have been great on helping it. Gigi backtracks, Tiago backtracks, Saba backtracks. Have you seen the mileage that Saba has put in on a weekly basis? It is immense. Bart Sleesh the same way in the midfield. Rios coming back, had that crucial stop. Dell wants to start Tyler. Emilio wants to start Tyler and then go to Mosqueda. Hutch, no, there have not been changes to the physio staff, but less severe injuries, but less severe. But then you have the ones that take up a lot of time when it comes to rehab. They haven't been necessarily severe. So it's like a bone bruise, a high ankle sprain. But those are the ones, while they're not necessarily more severe, the rehabilitation time has taken up a lot more than normal. And Dell, Jinx. Morning, Hutch. Morning, Emilio. I don't know. Amelia, that's a good question. Any idea how they assess Noah testing and those kinds of things? It might. That's a good question. When you monitor someone with migraines, how do you monitor it? And I know obviously you want to keep a running file folder of, okay, well, we did this on this day and everything's fine. And, you look at your wild cards and things like that. It's like, okay, we did this, then this happened. Cause and effect, A to B, A to B, A to B. And you just have this running list. Now that you know that migraines can affect Noah, you look at all of the evidence from all of the different empirical evidence that was there in the situation. So what was his heart rate? What was, what was his hydration levels? All those kinds of things. And so with the backpack or the sports apparatus that's there, the sports tank top, you probably have a boatload of empirical evidence that you can download and sit there and analyze. Okay, he was here, you did this, this, and this, and then the moment happened where levels might have changed. And then Noah, I imagine he was still wearing the device up until a certain point when he walked into the locker room. And so physios probably look at all of that information and analyze it and have it off to the side and sit there and go, okay, how did we treat this? And then Noah was, yesterday, as Tyler said, first guy back out. So what was the transition like from the treatment and the moment that it happened to the treatment to get him back out there as first guy for practice? So I'm sure the physio staff has a boatload of evidence that they can look at and use as guideposts for dealing with Noah and his migraine specifically, since we know that migraines are different from person to person to person. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, KFC, migraines suck. They do. I know folks who have them. Yeah, and literally is go into a dark room, lay down, lights, blinds, the whole thing. So there it is. Yes, Nix. Maurice is 300,000. Yeah, sure he is. And Nix doesn't like the new Lay's Messy ad. Hutch, maybe there are Easter eggs buried in the fine print, and probably there are. There probably are MLS financing rules that Miami are unlocking and using. And when you have someone who is as experienced as Chris Henderson is, and John Thorrington at LAFC, then you're like, okay, this, and this. And I think that when Lionel Messi came into Major League Soccer and you came up with this NIL deal, for lack of a better word, where you have sponsors committed to financing or helping out financing, Michelob, here, appear in this commercial and we'll give you X. So, demands on your time create NIL contracts and endorsement deals. So maybe it's done through, endorsements. I prefer to think of it these days as NIL. So what you're dealing with in Major League Soccer are NIL deals and endorsement deals. And those are not salaries. That's not a salary that is given to you by your club. If it just so happens that Lay's, Michelob Light, Adidas, whomever else is lining up to the table, Publix, whomever's lining up to the table that wants Messi's time, it is going to have to be reimbursed handsomely. And so Lionel Messi comes in, he's got his salary figure, and he is given the max DP level, but you can pretty much pay him whatever you want. The number I think that we came up with last year was over $20 million with bonuses and DP and all this kind of stuff. But then with percentages and endorsements and NIL, it rocketed to, what did they say, 50? So whatever it is, whatever that base number is, as a DP, you can get paid whatever. Then you have the endorsements over the top, which is not salary. So it is the key to it, for LAFC and Olivier Giroud, Just for Men, Paul Mitchell, all those. Hallmark for the calendar. The most handsome men in Major League Soccer coming this Christmas. Those kinds of things. So it is front offices that sit there and they will look at it and go, okay, if we can have endorsements fund this extra pot, then that will make up for more than the actual than salary figures. It's like, hey, what we will give you in endorsements will either match or surpass what you're currently making in salary in your current employ. So you're having to be a little bit more imaginative because of the rules of engagement in Major League Soccer. But specifically where Matias Rojas is, and Olivier Giroud, we can sit there and say, okay, you're a DP. I get it. You get paid DP money, you get paid whatever under the cap, but then you come up with something on level number 2, endorsements, what have you, off to the side. That's the fine print that we probably are dealing with here, is the endorsement / NIL material that we're looking at involving these big names when they walk in the door. Matias Rojas, however, is for me a larger question, because how is it that you can bring in, Federico Redondo? How is it that you can bring in Matias Rojas? How is it that you can bring in these players? Once you put someone on long-term injury, then you can replace that salary. I get it, but Diego Gomez is not a long-term injury replacement. It is 6 weeks from what we understand, 6 to 8. If you want to be widening out rehab. Getting rid of DeAndre Yedlin and jettisoning Jean Mota using your one-time oopsie, that created space. How much, we don't know, because then they brought in Redondo, and then now they're bringing in Rojas. All of these different things, like I said, all of these different shuffling of the cards on the table at the trop. You've got to have a dealer who knows the odds and can card count like anybody else. And you're seeing that with Chris Henderson. And you saw it last year with Carlos Bocanegra and Atlanta United when they brought in all the guys in the summer window, bringing in Shande and Jamal and Saba. So you have individuals in that front office in Miami, here, L.A., that can go right up to the number. But I would love to know what the number is and what the navigating room is. You can go to NHLnumbers.com and you can see where somebody is up against the cap. You can see that they are way the hell over the cap and that they're going to be paying a luxury tax. You can do the same thing in the National Basketball Association. Same thing in the NFL. Major League Baseball, I think you can too. Shows you how much I watch baseball these days and haven't since the strike. Major League Soccer, you can't. And that's where we are here, because if you have fans from teams and rival teams asking questions and running black helicopter theories, like, we are kind of doing tongue in cheek, but we are addressing a larger issue, I think, that needs to be addressed. Transparency when it comes to signing people. Transparency does nothing but help folks understand. And I think that right now where Major League Soccer is as an entity and what they wish to accomplish, I think that just the most basic transparency when it comes to the salary, the cap, and how you designate folks and how much space you've got would go a long way in helping us all understand the navigation that we continue to see in a couple of cities here in Major League Soccer that leaves a lot of other cities in Major League Soccer and their fans sitting there going, what happened? Just a little transparency. Yes, Knicks. Here's my hand. If I was to look away and something was to appear in this hand, you take the parking ticket and you wad it up, and then there's money in this hand, those kinds of things. Lookout Shakedown by Dell. Nix is saying that Rio Tinto and Harriman, Utah's got a good view. Cerro de la Silla, rather impressive. Okay, so S&S. Scarves and Spike says this. Focusing on Lookout, Kennesaw, and Stone Mountains, and credit to the AI generator he just used. Tri-Mountain Showdown, 3-Mountain Melee, the Summit Trio Derby, and then Aquarians, the Deep Dive Derby. Okay, all right. Got it. Okay. Morning, David. Resurgence in Phoenix Rising on our logo, the Soccer Rising Derby. Mountain Riding to a Point. The South is Rising Derby. And Emilio, using one's head hitting the ball can't be a good thing. There are certain ways to do it. That's why they always said when I was in soccer camp growing up, you always want to use the center of the forehead. Center of the forehead. But then obviously you can't do it every single time. It's off to the side. You get the shot off the crown, sometimes those kinds of things. Soda and slider derby. The Cola Combo Clash. The Cola Combo Clash. 3 times. RSL with the roofs. Yes, I think is it RSL that simulates the mountain range, or is it Colorado? I think it is RSL. And then Hutch says it's like PAC funding, dropping the political science reference. If you have to ask, you're not Miami. So that's where we are. So that's where we are. When just look, a little help goes a long way. A little understanding should go a long way in bringing in more fans, especially if you're chasing after the Club World Cup, especially if you are Major League Soccer or Apple TV, and Apple TV seems to be chasing after the Club World Cup because of the host slot. Just saying. Christopher Aiken from Clark Central coming up in about a half hour is a bit of a preview for our friends at Soccer's in Session Live, presented by Kaiser Permanente. Once again, tomorrow is match day 30 for us. Match day 30 for us for the SDH matches of the week. And so it'll be our 30th match day tomorrow with Trinity Christian and Perry. Like I said, we'll go over all the brackets. Got some guests coming up at noon for Soccer's in Session, but Christopher Aiken, head coach at Clark Central, coming on in about a half hour to talk about his bracket and how things have laid out this season. A couple of news and notes that we had this morning. It appears that La Liga president Javier Tebas has confirmed that matches will be held abroad. Could be as soon as 2 seasons out. The first destination will be the United States. Previously, the idea had been suggested, later shelved. Remember the lawsuit with Relevant and FIFA and everybody? Disagreements between the Spanish Federation and La Liga, but when the president with Rubiales gone, Tebas appears to feel confident that it will happen. Quote, I don't know when, but this time La Liga will play official matches abroad. I think it could be in the 25-26 season. The official match in the U.S. will strengthen our position in the North American market, which is second for La Liga after Spain. Other very competitive leagues are coming, so we can't always do the same thing. They would overtake us, Tebas told Marca. Barca and Real Madrid reportedly keen to take La Liga abroad in the past. Originally, the first suggested fixture was a clash between Girona and Barcelona in Miami, with Girona giving up a home match in exchange for the financial boost. So the Premier League was thinking about it. Javier Tebas is already sitting there going, you know, fam, I'm thinking that if we just do it, then we'll be the first in the door, and we can do it. So there you go. So I think it looks like Javier Tebas is trying to make sure that La Liga is first. La Liga is first in the door when it comes to figuring out their future. We do have our announcers for the new week, and we're waiting for the official assignments. We get the official assignments and the official assignments. So when we have all of that, we'll go. Liverpool is now in talks with Feyenoord. As expected, Dennis de Kloese is leading things from the Feyenoord side. Arne Slot can now be termed the favorite to replace Jurgen Klopp. 10 million euro plus compensation, close to 15 million. If multiple backroom staff go with Slot, should a deal be agreed. So Spurs had initially quoted 20 million euro with Slot, but it looks like it's going to be 10 plus, closer to 15 if it ends up with Liverpool getting Slot from Feyenoord. Now, next time Jarrett's on, remind me to have Jarrett break down how Arne Slot is philosophically and what his Feyenoord clubs do and how it could be seen at Liverpool if Slot is, in fact, the number one guy in the clubhouse, as it appears right now, for the job for the job at Liverpool to replace Jurgen Klopp. So you've got that all going on. So here's according to Ben Jacobs, here's what's going on. Feyenoord boss very keen on the move. And it also appears that Ben has paid the extra money monthly to go more than 280 characters. Should be Compensation likely to be 10 million euro plus should a deal be agreed, closer to 15 depending on other backroom staff exits. No formal release clause in Slut's contract, which runs until 2026. Liverpool have a good relationship with Feyenoord, who appreciated the formal approach coming after their KNVB Cup win. Things are now moving fast, with much of Liverpool's focus on Slut, despite still keeping the door open to other candidates within their thorough process. Jacobs continues. Slut's brave attacking football is seen as a big plus. Liverpool also rates Slut's attitude towards recruitment and believe he can work collaboratively, including being heavily involved in player pitches after targets are determined. Liverpool placed significant emphasis on finding not just the right footballers, but the right characters who can fit into a set style and have impact off the field. Several managers who buy into this approach have made it to the latter stages of Liverpool's process, as have ones with a track record of developing young talent. Slut can be termed the favorite to replace Jurgen Klopp at this point. So that is Ben Jacobs discussing Arne Slot and what it looks like for Liverpool chasing after a replacement for Jurgen Klopp. So Arne Slot is apparently number one in the clubhouse when it comes to replacing Jurgen Klopp. Independiente coach Carlos Tevez admitted to hospital very, very early this morning after suffering chest pains. Independiente says tests are satisfactory, kept there as a precaution. So keeping an eye on Carlos Tevez as his time with coaching Independiente continues. So we've got that going on this morning as well. Time to tour the papers and let you know what else is going on with all the activity and all the places and all the things. And we mentioned tonight with Atlanta United 2 and Chattanooga FC, this was a match that was supposed to happen a week ago, but once again, because of activity going on with Open Cup and things like that, this one got shifted. It is not the only one that has been shifted. The Carolina Core match got shifted a day next month because of the Open Cup match that's happening on Tuesday, the 7th against Charlotte Independent. So that match that was originally scheduled for the 7th is now Wednesday the 8th. So back-to-back dates at Fifth Third Bank Stadium for Atlanta United. Open Cup on May 7, and Atlanta United 2 Carolina Core on May 8th. But that's the only match tonight on MLSNextPro.com, Atlanta United 2 and Chattanooga FC. A couple of teams have some makeup matches that are going on this week, but it's the only one currently on the board for today. Chattanooga has a quick turnaround, as does Atlanta United 2. Chattanooga actually has a home match against Carolina Core on Saturday night at Findlay. And Atlanta United 2, remember, everybody's flying up for the weekend in Chicago and suburbs because it's Atlanta United on Saturday night at Soldier Field, and then it is the Twos in Bridgeview at SeatGeek Sunday afternoon at 2, and that one is on MLS Season Pass. So it is a full weekend for Atlanta United and Atlanta United 2. The Twos playing 3 matches in an 8-day period. So definitely going to be a period of time where there's going to be some definite Venn diagramming when it comes to lineups for Steve Cook and the staff. It's a big challenge going on today. Premier League's got a handful of matches at 2:45 and 3. We'll get into the juice boxes coming up in just a little bit. Mauricio Pochettino, according to the Telegraph, is not safe beyond the summer after what happened yesterday with Chelsea and Arsenal. Who had Ben White as the captain on their fantasy team? That would be me. 5-0 yesterday. So Pochettino is not safe beyond the summer. They have yet to give a decision, they meaning Bowley Clearlake in the front office. Decision has not been made to give Pochettino a second year. Acceptance among the hierarchy is not that he is not solely to blame for the issues. You'll remember that Pochettino, leading into the Arsenal match, said that they needed to prove that they are more than Cole Palmer FC. Palmer did not play. That was the other end of my fantasy because I also had in Premier League fantasy Cole Palmer. That didn't go well. So now they're trying to figure out what's going on with Pochettino. And you had, despite the FA Cup semifinal defeat and Tuesday night's big loss to Arsenal, he's going to remain in his job past the end of the season. Pressure growing on Pochettino amid frustration over some decisions. Still retains support within Chelsea. No recognition. He's been working with a tough set of circumstances. This is from Matt Law at the Telegraph. Also, some belief that Pochettino cannot be solely responsible for the difficulties they're facing, wasn't responsible for the transfer policy, and to build such a young squad. You got a lot of players with futures kind of hanging in the balance. You've also got to look at profit and sustainability rules, who has to stay. Remember, we've been talking about Conor Gallagher being a part of the departure process after the season's over. Who's going to be staying? Who's going? What's it going to look like next year? So they can't finish the season with a trophy. And now you've got to qualify for Europe. You've got a 6-match run-in that includes Spurs and Villa. If you don't qualify for Europe, that means that Bowley Clearlake and the sporting directors are really going to have to think hard about whether Pochettino comes back for a second year. And there's the idea that if you keep him, you get stability. We know he's not completely and totally responsible for it. We know that if we keep him for a second year, you're adding stability to it. He wasn't a part of the build. A lot of it was young guys. So you've got that going on. So like in the movies, if you sit there and you're trying to come up with your decision, if you're Todd Bowley at the edge of a lake and you've got the sheet of paper and you're trying to figure out what my decision is, you take the sheet of paper, you draw the line down the middle and you go, yes, no. And so the reasons to keep Mauricio Pochettino, all those things that we were talking about, you cross over. The no might be just the one thing, didn't make Europe. So you've got all of these different things. The yes side to keep him might have a longer list than the right-hand side of not to keep him, having that one. So is that one on the no side going to trump and or exceed everything on the left-hand side of the ledger? And then do you go back to the board of directors if you're Todd Bowley and you sit there and you go, here's my list and here's my decision. Or here's my thoughts. So yeah, you got that. You got all that to think about. So that's what you're staring at with Mauricio Pochettino. 2-year deal, club option for another year. A lot of folks, according to Matt Law, said that European qualification was a minimum target. But you haven't had any progress. So we'll see. Also, word came out, it was recognized by the Premier League, and it was shocking news that the Premier League admitted that 2 players, both the age of 19, were arrested on the weekend following alleged rape. Wolves have come forward and said, no, that's not us. For a club to come forward and sit there and say, no, that's not us, apparently, I mean, that is getting out in front of something. And so apparently there was once again what they term as inappropriate online speculation. Wolves came forward and said, no, it's not us. And so you had a lot of folks who were trying to put one and one together. Wolves is like, no, it's not us. But keep an eye out on that story and the eventual landing spot for a lot of that information. It appears that Manchester United and Newcastle are still 13 million pounds apart on a Dan Ashworth deal. 13 million apart. You're really going to have to come up with some. You're really going to have to come up with some coin to make sure that everything is laid out in place if you're going to want Dan Ashworth. And it will not. It's not a surprise because you are going to want. You're going to want this guy, and so of course you set a price. Absolutely, you're going to set a price. Well, if you want him that badly, what's it worth to you? This basically, Alex, this is what Newcastle's up to. So Newcastle is like, you want Dan Ashworth? It's 15 million. Manchester United's like, oh, how about 2? I don't think that's going over well. So right now, Manchester United's like $2 million in compensation, and they're prepared to wait to the end of the year for Dan Ashworth. But yeah, right now, Newcastle wants $15 million to let Ashworth go to Manchester United to be a part of the new front office. Manchester United's like, here's 2. I think they're far apart. Newcastle wants 15 million pounds and another 5 million in add-ons for Ashworth, who's on gardening leave. I need video when this happens. When folks are on gardening leave, are they really gardening? Or is Dan Ashworth just kicking it in his backyard, kind of, putting his feet up, reading the paper of choice? He's got a, carafe of brandy hanging out off to the side. He's on his back porch. He's kicked up, feet are kicked up, reading the paper. Reaches over. You assume it's Ashworth. Paper's kind of hiding him. You see a hand reach out around the paper to the carafe, bring the carafe inside the paper, put the carafe back down. Is that Dan Ashworth right now, or is he actually gardening? Inquiring minds. Can somebody get like a drone or a helicopter or something over Dan Ashworth's house? And here's Dan Ashworth. He's reading the newspaper. He's not gardening, but he's supposed to be on gardening leave. Back to you. I need video of Dan Ashworth gardening. If you're on gardening leave, at least you ought to garden once. Come up with the promo photo. Like the Ma and Pa Kettle thing, where he's in overalls and he's got the pitchfork, He's just kind of, the pitchfork's in the ground and he's like this. Dan Ashworth's in his Newcastle overalls and outfit, looking like Pa Kettle, on gardening leave, waiting for something to happen. But yeah, 13 million apart plus add-ons. Newcastle's like, you want him now? 15 plus 5. Manchester United, how about 2? Yikes. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. United are proposing compensation around the 2 million mark, similar to the fee Newcastle paid to get Ashworth away from Brighton 2 years ago, less than the 4 million that was reported at the time. Sir Jim Ratcliffe had talks with Amanda Stavely, and shocking no one, they're still well apart in their evaluations. United feel that their approach for Ashworth, according to Ducker, is no different to the way Newcastle pursued the former FA technical director when he was at Brighton, and apparently are surprised by the club's financial demands. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has apparently been critical publicly of Newcastle's positioning. I don't think that really goes over well. So, little expectation of Ashworth starting before the summer. According to Ducker, here's how it's phrased. It's understood United would be willing to pay a small uplift on the $2 million if there was the prospect of bringing in Ashworth before the summer. But they are not going to be strong-armed. United confirmed the appointment of Jason Wilcox as technical director on Friday, and apparently Wilcox has said, he walks up to Eric Ten Hag. And apparently Jason Wilcox comes walking into his new gig. He goes up to Ten Hag and tells Ten Hag, you have to play the new Manchester United way, starting against Sheffield United. And this is, of course, with the players that you have right now. You have to play in a new manner, starting with Sheffield United. If Ten Hag, and this is social media overseas, so once again, take it for what it's worth. If Ten Hag does not deliver a possession-based style of play in the remaining weeks of the season, his future looks limited. How do you think that's going over? You're new at your gig. You come walking in the door. And you are apparently, allegedly, possibly, probably, maybe told you have to change things philosophically with the players you have on hand. And you've got to do it now. Here's your runway, and it starts with Sheffield United. I mean, yes, Sheffield United is at the bottom of the table and are probably going to get relegated unless they catch fire for the remainder of the season. But yeah, you're new in the gig. You tell them you got to change with the players you got, or we're going to look at your future. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, Emilio is like Ted Baxter. I just have this vision of Judge Smales and Danny Noonan in the office. Danny, are you on the side of goodness or badness? And Jason Wilcox rocking in his chair, blocked by a lamp. Ten Hag kind of looking around either side of the lamp. Ten Hag, I want to be good. And then Wilcox goes, good. That's what I feel is happening right now with Manchester United. And like I said, Drew Dickinson can sit there and blow his stack on it. But that's what this seems like to me. Denny, if you want to play on goodness or badness, what side are you on? So, yes, apparently Jason Wilcox has told Erik ten Hag that he that he's got to do it in that way. And I can't wait to see it, because if you try it and it does not work, are you not putting Erik ten Hag in a position to fail right out of the blocks? But, you know, as we sit here and think about it, I mean, really? When a new boss comes in, when somebody new buys your business, yes, you do have to prove yourself all over again. That's just how it is. New boss buys it. He brings in his bosses. You have to make sure that you're proving yourself all over again. But how many of us, show of hand, legitimately thought that once Sir Jim Ratcliffe's purchase of Manchester United was going to happen, that he legitimately was going to hang on to Erik ten Hag? You want to bring in your own people. Jason Wilcox, to me right now, legitimately is just one of those entities where it is Judge Smales and Danny Noonan in the office. That literally is what I'm staring at. So Dell says, ten Hag is gone, Zidane's incoming. Well, but the thing is, Dell, you're seeing with Manchester United right now, they're trying to trim a lot off the budget. They're looking at redundancies. So I don't know how much money they really can spend on a new manager that would be the size of ten Hag. Legitimately, I don't. I don't know. Can you spend that kind of money? And would Zidane want it, first and foremost? Would Zinedine Zidane finally decide, no, I don't want the French national gig, I'll go ahead and go to Manchester United? That's the first question. I still don't think that he would. I still think he's happy and he's chilling. He's chilling. I don't see it. I think that he's still hanging out for national team gigs. He's kicking it back. He's on gardening duty, except that he's got a lot of money that he can just sit there and fiddle with. Zidane's on gardening duty too. It's just that he ain't gardening. He's staring at a beach. He's staring at a beach. And it's going to take a lot to get him into an actual coaching gig on a weekly basis with a club. He's going to want that grind. I don't know if he wants that grind. But with Manchester United looking at all of their finances and looking at redundancies and trimming travel and cutting up credit cards and all these kinds of things, you're focusing on that to help balance your books. What do you think the transfer budget's going to be like for whomever's in charge at Manchester United, for Wilcox and Ashworth and or the new manager, if not, or ten Hag or the new manager? I don't know. I mean, with all of this stuff happening, with the front office stuff, trimming jobs, I think it was like 20% of the folks were going to be viewed as redundant. Cutting up corporate credit cards, all those kinds of things. That doesn't sound to me like a team that is going to, really put the world on fire. All right. It is time. It's we're going to punch the clock a little early. There's nothing wrong with that. So the beauty of soccer is in session is that we get to talk to folks and we get to pull them out of like lunchroom duty, and we get to pull them out of class, and we get to sit there and see if the coaches can sit there and, hey, I need you to sit in my class for a couple of minutes. I'm doing a show. And so we have one of these instances. And so since we are in a no dilly, no dally zone, and I don't want to get this guy into any trouble, I'm going to go to Athens, Georgia. And as a bit of a preview for Soccer's in Session, and the beauty of doing having a setup like this is I can see what Chris Aiken's up to. And Chris is trying to find a space inside Clark Central High School where he can sit down, perhaps not be heckled, and discuss what's going on with his football program, FUTBOL. And it looks like he is in the indoor practice facility for American football, as he shows it to me. And I think he is. So we're going to bring Chris in to talk stuff. So you're in the football practice facility, huh?
Yes, sir. This is our weight room here at Clark Central High School.
The weight room. And so, yeah, I got to kind of see what was going on there. I saw that you were trying to find. Were you getting heckled in your previous locations, and that's why you ended up?
No, so my other location is our wrestling room, and it's a pretty dimly lit area. So I was trying to find somewhere with a little better lighting for you.
That's okay. Thanks for doing this. I know that you're taking some time here in a planning period and a bit of a gap. It's game day. What is game day traditionally like, especially here in season 3? What's it like getting ready for a match?
So game day begins. Have all the boys meet me at school before the school day begins. Today we had a Chick-fil-A waiting for them, bottled water. For games, we wear the opposite jersey. We're not going to wear that game to school so that other students can see we have a game later today, kind of for a little cross promotion for the students. Gives them a little bit of kind of self-pride also, and lets them know throughout the day, kind of reminding them constantly they got a big game coming up. So I met with all the boys this morning for a little bit, gave them breakfast, got them a jersey, and now we're just kind of moving through the school day, getting ready for the game.
Top seed out of Region 8 in Class 5A, and you are in one of the nastiest brackets around. You are low left as folks fill things out in pen. The final 4 in your bracket, Cross Keys at McIntosh and Dalton coming to town today. You got when the bracket came out, I know that coaches sit there and they'll kind of figure out, okay, who's going on. When did you have your bracket low left figured out, and what was your reaction of like, okay, we're in this with Dalton and McIntosh to get to a championship?
Yes, so we knew all the way back about 5 weeks ago when we were playing Jefferson for the region championship what that result would do for us. We knew winning that game would provide us the 1 seed, but it would match us up with Dalton and McIntosh. We already kind of did some foreshadowing all the way back in early March to kind of see where we would end up and potentially wanted to end up. And it came down to, obviously, we wanted to remain undefeated and beat Jefferson, so that wasn't really a question there. And we knew we'd match up with those 2 teams, but we thought having the home field advantage versus Dalton would be pretty critical. We saw they lost to Cass early in the season, so we knew they'd finish as the 2 seed. But again, not having to ride in that 2.5-hour bus ride, which we've done to Peachtree City the past 3 years, is something we were looking forward to avoiding. So that was a good motivation to win that game, get the home field and host Dalton. And then again, yesterday morning, we found out we won the coin toss. So if we're able to come out tonight with a win, we'd get to host McIntosh and avoid the ride to Peachtree City as well. So we knew coming into the game at Jefferson winning would get us those teams, but you got to beat them sometimes. So at least we get to host them both at Clark Central. So definitely tough though to know that the final 4 teams, like you mentioned, are number 1 in the state, number 2 in the state, number 3 in the state. So nothing easy coming up.
If I had told you at this point of the season that you'd be 15-0-2, that you would have run right through the region and gone a perfect 6-0, and that you would be looked at nationally ranked, depending on your poll, your top 30 nationally, your top 15 in the state of Georgia, depending on the poll, what would you have told me if I had just given you all that information at the beginning of the year? What would you have told me then?
I knew coming in we'd be very strong. We returned a lot of players from last year that were key to our success. We got 15 seniors in the program. They're all great leaders. Even the boys who don't get a lot of playing time are excellent leaders at practice, excellent leaders on game day. And so we knew we'd have a really solid season. Obviously, you can never predict you'd go undefeated. Obviously, you never know how you're going to handle injuries, sicknesses, weather, things like that throughout the season. But extremely proud of the way the boys have stepped in and handled different roles. We came into the season changing some of our kind of tactical philosophies. We went from a much more defensive unit the past 2 seasons to much more offensive heavy this year. We've relied heavily on kind of a 4-5-1, trying to keep every game 0-0 with great defense and great goalie play. It's been very successful in the regular season, 2021, 2022. Both seasons we had, I think, 15, 16 wins, but anytime we got down a goal, we struggled to chase the game. And that was because we spent so much time relying on defense throughout the regular season. And so coming into this year, knowing we returned Thad Pruitt and Raul, who were 2 of our leading goal scorers, as well as Lucas Stewart, we knew we had some offensive power we could come into the season with. And we switched to a very kind of 4-3-3 with 3 forwards that stay high the whole game, trying to get the ball into more attacking positions quicker. And so we've seen a lot of success from that. I think we ended with a plus 80 goal differential this year. And so definitely the offensive transition has been key to our success. We're kind of putting other teams on their heels, getting up 2-0, and then they're trying to chase us. And so definitely tactical shift to a much more offensive heavy formation has been very successful this season, and we're looking to keep that going tonight.
How difficult a transition was it for you to go from one formation to another, be comfortable with it, have the players be comfortable with it? Or has it still been a work in progress and they're still trying to sit there and they're still tweaking things as we get into season 3? How long did it take to get to full song, or are you still trying to get there?
Still definitely tinkering constantly. We started early in season with 2 holding mids throughout the first 10 games of the year because I was still focused on that defensive element. But we had a player come back from an injury. He's a high caliber player, plays for the ODP regional pool team. He became the 1 true 6, and so now we play with 2 cams and even get more people forward. I think he was kind of a missing piece in that first part of the season as far as really wanting to free up the offensive versus defensive units. And so having the 1 holding 6 all game has provided us a lot of offense the past 3 games. We scored 5 versus Lithia Springs. We scored 6 versus Winder Barrow. And so he's kind of freed us up to get more players in the attacking third. But again, like you mentioned, it's constantly just tinkering, seeing what's working, what's not working, and seeing which players are playing well at the time, which are not playing well. We've got guys that come off the bench that come in and score consistently. And so everyone is constantly competing for those minutes in the attacking positions. So it's good to have a lot of people, not only the starting unit, but they're coming off the bench contributing. And so makes my job tough, but it's a good problem to have.
I was going to say, that's a good tough to have. Class 5A playoffs tonight. Clark Central hosting Dalton, 14-4-1 against 15-0-2 in the toughest quadrant in 5A this year here in the GHSA playoffs. Hanging out with us here, kind of breaking things down for a Soccer is in Session tease and preview for the show that's coming up at noon, because Chris is kind of busy. You know, he's got stuff to do there at Clark Central during the noon hour. So we figured we'd grab him here and talk about things. Dalton, how much film study have you done? Is it just like, we know what Matt Cheeves and the Catamounts are going to do? We've seen them. We know that this is his DNA. What has study hall been like getting ready for this matchup?
So we're fortunate with the first round game being 7 days previous. We had a lot of time to prepare for them. I was able to get a hold of 5 of their game videos, and so I've done a lot of video analysis. High school soccer is no different than elite level soccer. When you're at the top level of high school soccer, you're doing as many things as you can to prepare for the game. So we've broken down film extensively, dialed in on key players. We looked at 2023 statistics to see who was key players from last season. We're looking at who plays for what club teams, trying to identify tendencies on the field, see who leading goal scorers are, leading assist players. And so we've done extensive scouting. We used practice last week on Thursday and Friday to recover from Lithia Springs, and we got a hard practice on Friday. But then these past 2 days, we've been doing a lot of kind of shadow play, walkthrough, scenario-based play on things that we've seen them do on film, tendencies they have to try to kind of jump certain routes or get in front of certain plays before they develop, and then looking at trying to exploit some of their weaknesses that we might have seen on film, and hopefully we can implement those tonight.
It's interesting that you do shadows and walk through, because some folks will sit there and they'll go full speed, or they'll go full speed and go stop, start, and it's like, okay, look at this, look at this, look at this. But you do it at a slower pace with walkthroughs and shadows. I find that really interesting. How'd you pick that idea up?
Well, we kind of do it how you just mentioned with start stop. I actually am not a firm believer in the shadow play aspect of the whole training session. I think high school kids sometimes struggle to stay focused for a 60 to 90-minute session if you're just talking and walking them through things. And then you wonder how much they're actually comprehending and taking away. And so the way we design our training session is 5 minutes of maybe an intense passing pattern, and then we'll break it down and work on how to defend set pieces. And then we'll go back to a 5-minute passing pattern in a different variation. And then we'll go to 5 minutes of how they like to run a long throw and play. And then we'll go back to another 7 to 10 minute segment of possession. And then we'll go back to defending them from a goal kick. And so the practice is segmented into probably 7 to 8 different things that I'd like them to see that I saw on film. We code the film for them on Huddle, and so they can watch what I'm talking about with timestamps, and they've got descriptions of what it's going to look like, and then they have the visual representation. But I also like to walk through it so I can say, this is what I saw, this is what I think it's going to look like. Obviously, soccer is pretty free flowing, so you can't have it exactly how you want it to be and how they're exactly going to do it, but you can give them a general idea of what they're going to do, what it's going to look like, how we want to defend it. And so I do that for 5 minutes, maybe 7 total, and then immediately go back to some type of soccer related activity so that they're moving, they're back engaged in practice, they're getting their blood flowing again. And then we slow it down a second time, and we just keep repeating that cycle. So they're not staying around too much, they're engaged in practice, and it lets them kind of just learn the key points of what I'm talking about, focus back on practice, and then the next key point, because if I just talk the whole time, I don't know how much they would actually retain from my my notes.
Right. In Northeast Georgia, And I will go ahead and round off and call the Athens area Northeast Georgia. It is a growing soccer community / hotbed because of what you're able to do, what Oconee County is able to do, and folks are having to pay attention to what's going on up there in Northeast Georgia. When it comes to the on-campus and area support, I am of a certain vintage, and I can remember American football and Billy Henderson, and I know American football and a guy named Perno as a head coach, and I know what American football means on that campus. But what does football mean on that campus, and what has the fan support been like, the student support been like, as you have been able to do all of these things on the field?
It's been tremendous. I've been at Clark Central now 13 years. I love it here, and I think that it's a great soccer community, like you mentioned. I think it's definitely growing. Our first round playoff game had a tremendous crowd for a Wednesday school night. To see that many people come out, we were very thankful. Our last home game, we had teacher appreciation night. I think we had 35 teachers come out, and they all brought their families and kids. And so we've seen a lot of support from not only our own school, but people in the community. I know Cedar Shoals comes over and watches us play when we're at home. Oconee, North Oconee. Obviously, we're fierce rivals when we're playing each other, but we're obviously supporting them. Cedar's got a big game coming up. They made it to the Sweet 16 as well, and so we're cheering them on from afar. And so, like you mentioned, it's very competitive in this area. We're probably not as well known like some of the bigger clubs down in Atlanta, GSA or Atlanta Fire, Concord, programs that have a lot of MLS Next teams. But we are fortunate to have Athens United, Oconee Football Club, and a lot of high kids that are playing at high level soccer. And so it's been very fortunate to have those kids come to our schools and help us produce good results at the high school level. And the support from, like I said, teachers and students has been great, and we're hoping to get a big turnout tonight.
I was going to say, since I know you have to get back to work, and thanks for taking the time to do this, cut the promo for me. Let everybody know the when, the where, and the who leading up to today.
7 o'clock tonight at home, Sweet 16. We get to host the defending 2023 state champs, and we're looking forward to putting on a good game versus them.
No doubt about it. Chris, thanks for taking time out of your hyper busy schedule and a match day for hanging out with us, and good luck tonight. It's going to be a tough one. You're in a tough region, but I know that you got a lot of folks who are looking forward to this one across the board, who appreciate the sport here in the state of Georgia. Good luck tonight. We'll catch up with you soon.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
There we go. Chris Aiken, the head coach at Clark Central. And so he is in their weight room, and he pulled time to go into the weight room, which was better lighted than the initial spot. But Chris Aiken kind of giving us a bit of a tease for Soccer's in Session coming up at noon on the network. And it is at noon. We're going to catch up hopefully with Philip Thomas, the head coach at River Ridge, and also Chris Leone as they are packing in their 7A matchup. They're hitting the road. And so I get to pull Chris Leone, the head coach for North Gwinnett, away from packing. And so we'll see if he is in a room or if he is going to be looking with the packing going on in the background. So we'll see what Chris Leone has going on. But Philip Thomas at River Ridge at noon, and Chris Leone from North Gwinnett coming up at 12:15 for Soccer's in Session Live, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente for all that is you. North Gwinnett is going to be taking on Kennesaw Mountain today in the low right bracket in 7A. North Gwinnett came through as a 4 seed in round number 1. They knocked off the number 1 team in Region 6 3-2, and now they travel to Kennesaw Mountain, who won their 3-2 matchup. Low right, 7A boys. And so we'll catch up with River Ridge. We'll catch up with North Gwinnett. We'll go through all the brackets and let you know what's going on today and get you ready for what's going on in day 2, round 2 of the playoffs in the sport of soccer here in the state of Georgia. So very, very cool stuff going on. And once again, thanks to all of the coaches. And I mean, all these coaches that will sit there and they will take time out of their incredibly busy schedules. And like I said, I mean, and Coach Aiken, by the way, is an assistant principal at Clark Central. So we pulled him away from not just coaching duties, but principaling duties. We pulled him from 2 different things. Got to hang out with him for about 10 minutes or so. So once again, that's your tease for Soccer's in Session coming up at noon Eastern, and we'll let you know what else is going on in and around the planet when it comes to the activities of soccer here in the state of Georgia. Trying to see if there's any other news that I might have missed here this morning. We have the stuff going on with Major League Soccer. West Ham, it looks like they're looking at Julian Lopetegui possibly to take over for David Moyes. And it will be interesting to see who it's Ruben Amorim. I think they were looking at him. They're now looking at Lopetegui. Or you're trying to see what direction West Ham is going to go. And it looks like David Moyes' contract will not be renewed. Leicester beat Southampton. And it looks like they are closing in on promotion because, once again, you've got 4 teams that are close, 3 that are really close: Leicester, Ipswich, and Leeds. Only 2 of them get automatic promotion. The win over Southampton gave the top 3 a bit of space with Southampton. Southampton looking like they're going to lock into the 4 in the championship. But once again, you look at the bottom half of the table in the championship, and literally for the 2, and because Rotherham's already been relegated, you look at the 2 positions on the board that are still relegation spots for League One. You've got 8 teams within, I think, 6 points. So if you are really into the notion of looking at relegation 6-pointers and the pro rel battle, then look at what's going on in the championship and follow them in for their run in when it comes to when it comes to the sport here in England. So we've got that going on as well. Like I said, I am cruising and touring and seeing if there was any stories that I might have missed. And let's see, am I missing anything? Oh, man, and United fans, since we're on United, by the way, it looks like Erik ten Hag branded the criticism of Manchester United's loss in the FA Cup semifinal as embarrassing and disgraceful. And it was a bit of a discussion, and Anthony was asked about all of the jaw-jacking back and forth and the lip flapping back and forth that was going on in the match, and it was between Coventry City players and Manchester United players. And Anthony was asked about it. He had a celebration. He said that the celebrations after the win were over Coventry were in defense of my club. Matt Jones at Eurosport. He defended his celebrations in the win. Anthony wheeled away, cupping his ear, this little bit in front of the Sky Blue players. Insists he was provoked, while manager Erik ten Hag admits that the player should not do it. And so Anthony justified his celebrations. He was criticized for doing this, and he insists he was provoked into such a reaction by an unnamed Coventry player. And so on the 280-character app, Anthony goes, Coventry proved why they reached the semifinal. We sought this spot in the final for our fans, and we achieved. The way our fans were treated by their player was not nice. And I, in the heat of the moment, I've reacted to the provocations in a natural defense of my club. So basically it was, they started it. They started it. Ten Hag asked about Anthony's celebration. Did you see the reaction of Harry Maguire? He was provoked. That's why this was a reaction to that. You haven't seen the provocation, only the reaction, but he should not do it. So Anthony basically goes, well, they started it. And so there you go. That's why he did it. I've also seen Harry Maguire. We should acknowledge the performance of Coventry. Game must be closed, but the return from their side was very good. So, yes, Anthony did what he did because they started it. They started it. But apparently, fans are turning their backs on tickets. United messaged club members Monday afternoon telling them that more tickets had become available for the Sheffield United match on Wednesday due to the high number of tickets returned by season ticket holders. Negative reaction. The fact he was asked about it in his post-match press conference on Sunday if he was embarrassed by the nature of United's collapse was still eating at Ten Hag, who lashed out at reporters yesterday at Carrington. Is it embarrassing? No, the reaction from you was embarrassing, as he pointed to the media. Top football's about results. We made it to a final. We deserved it, not only because of this game, but because of other games. We lost control for 20 minutes, but we also had bad luck. Made it to the final, which is a huge achievement, twice in 2 years. It's magnificent. For me as a manager, 5 cup finals in 4 years. The comments are a disgrace. Roy Keane, Jamie Carragher, they're all talking about it. Fans, they said that they were embarrassed. 3 p.m. on Tuesday, 500 tickets available for the Sheffield United match. Likely even more will return in the previous 48 hours. And Manchester United changes their ticket policy. They changed it 2 years ago, penalizing season ticket holders who did not show up regularly for matches at Old Trafford. Now, if a fan doesn't show up to a certain number of matches, the club can remove the season ticket period. Alternatively, if they don't plan to attend a match according to the Times, season ticket holder can inform the club in advance. And they'll sell the seat to anyone who pays the $40 annual membership fee. The fact that this is a rearranged fixture, and it's also against Sheffield United, raises the eyebrows about the whole thing. It's like, well, it's rearranged and it's Sheffield United. I can understand why folks aren't interested. So you're getting tickets returned. Ten Hag says we made it to a final. 60 separate cases of injury or illness resulting in a player missing a match this season. But, yeah, you're having folks returning tickets for a rescheduled Sheffield United match. And that really should not be a surprise. I mean, if it's a midweek match, if it is a midweek match, and you have the chance, it was rearranged in the first place because of the FA Cup. It's against the last place team in the league. Would you want to go to friggin' Sheffield for a rearranged match in the midweek, where you probably would still be penalized by the club because you didn't show up? Rah! I did not see the Neil Maupay quote. I guess I did not see the Neil Maupay quote, Del. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. What to watch? Arsenal, Manchester City considering a summer move for Bruno Guimaraes. Real Madrid and PSG also interested in signing him, who reportedly has a £100 million release clause in his contract at St. James Park. Liverpool will have to pay Feyenoord a little over £8.5 million in compensation if they want to make Arne Slot their new manager. That's from the 4-letter paper, Take the Information at Your Own Peril. Oh, yeah. Oh, that one. Yeah. We said that celebration, and Neil Maupay said, I wouldn't even do that. Yes, I did see that one. Bernardo Silva has decided to leave Manchester City. Release clause of $50 million, keen to make a switch to Barca. That's from Sport in Spain. Chelsea inquiring about RB Leipzig center back Castello Luqueba, who has a release clause of close to $60 million in his contract with the Bundesliga club. Manchester United are at least $13 million apart on Dan Ashworth. Talked about that. Thiago Silva has reached a verbal agreement with Fluminense since he's out of contract at the end of the year. That's from Goal. Arsenal, Manchester United striker Robin van Persie close to taking up his first managerial post after holding talks with Heerenveen in the Dutch league. Real Madrid plan to extend the contract of Lucas Vazquez. Current deal runs out in June. PSG are in pursuit of Barcelona's 16-year-old prodigy Lamine Yamal. Keep an eye on that. Manchester United interested in Inter Milan defender Alessandro Bastoni and prepared to offer about £52 million. Feyenoord also interested in Spurs' Brian Heel, expected to leave in the summer. We mentioned Olivier Giroud, going to join on a free, signed through the end of 25, 18-month deal, and I think there's an option for another year. Manchester United interested in 17-year-old midfielder Severa Naipan, who has impressed at Rosenborg, 4-letter paper. Bayern Munich set to reignite their interest in Frenkie de Jong at Barca. Final 2 years of his deal coming up. AC Milan senior advisor Zlatan has told the club's owners to appoint Antwerp boss Mark van Bommel as the Rossoneri's new head coach. So we'll see how much Zlatan has an impact with his thought patterns. So we'll see what happens there. What to watch, where to watch it before we go. And once again, remember, soccer's in session coming up top of the next hour, noon Eastern time. We'll let you know what's going on in the playoffs here in the state of Georgia. 7 o'clock pregame, 7:33 kick. Atlanta United 2, Chattanooga FC on the network, either on a soccerdownhere.mixler.com or on our Mixler app. Tampa Bay Sun made the first 3 signings in league history yesterday for the USL Super League. Erica Timrak, who won 2 NWSL championships with FC Kansas City. Also, you get Canadian Jordan Listro and Dominic Richardson, both midfielders. So 3 signings for Tampa Bay Sun yesterday as well. Once again, what to watch on TV, where to watch it. If you're a true sicko, you want to watch a lot of stuff, you can watch it in obscure places by going to Fanatis and subscribing there. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. fntz.co/soccer down here. And you can get all of the places like Teise, BN, all the BNs. For the Fans, Nuestra Tele, Gold TV, Liga One Max, all of them. You can get it at Fanatis and really go down the rabbit hole, especially in Central and South America and Europe, specifically Middle East and North Africa as well. So that you can do at Fanatis. What's on Fanatis, you say? Well, BN and BN Espanol have League 1 doubleheader and a Copa Libertadores doubleheader 1 and 3 and 6 and 8 Eastern. CBS Sports Network, Copa Italia, Atalanta and Fiorentina is at 3. The CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza is at 8 on FS1 with Crew and Monterrey. USA Network has Crystal Palace and Newcastle at 3. Also on the board, 2 to NA is your simulcast for Crew and Monterrey. DAZN USA has the French Division 1 with PSG and Paris FC. Belgian Pro League playoffs on the Plus at 2:30. It is both Bruges taking on Genk and Anderlecht. And the Eredivisie has Ajax and Excelsior. MLSNextPro.com, if you're not in Kennesaw, has the twos in Chattanooga FC at 7:30. There is no local radio option yet. Paramount Plus, Asian Champions League is already completed with Yokohama Marinos and Ulsan. They're also simulcasting the Copa Italia. Peacock has all 3 matches in the Premier League that are not going to be aired on the over-the-air television. So it's once again a very, very busy day in England, and we will run the juice boxes really quickly here in the Prem. 245, Bournemouth, a slight favorite at the Molineux against Wolves at a plus 147. Newcastle favored at Selhurst Park against Crystal Palace at a plus 127. Everton, a big underdog at home against Liverpool at a minus 238. Manchester United and Sheffield United. Manchester United is a minus 286. Sheffield United is a plus 713 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Right now, once again, Manchester City, 2 matches in hand. They are down 4 points to Arsenal. Arsenal's at 77 points. They have 4 matches to go. Liverpool, a match in hand. They are at 74 points, but they are well behind in goal difference. Manchester City, third at 73. Villa has 4 matches to go. They're at 66 points. That's group number 1. Tottenham kind of in a world of their own. They are at 60 points. Newcastle in starting group number 2, or 2B. Newcastle, Manchester United, 50 points. West Ham at 48. They've lost 3 of 5. They only have 4 points in their last 5 matches. Chelsea's at 47 points. They've won 2 and drawn 2 in their last 4. Brighton at 44 points, having to juggle international competitions this season. First time they've ever had to do that. They have 6 matches to go, and they are in 10th. Wolves are in 11th at 43. Fulham ahead of Bournemouth on goal difference at 42 points by 8. That gets us to 14th. Crystal Palace with 5 matches to go, 36 points. Brentford, 4 matches to go, 35 points. They should be okay. Everton, 30 points, still waiting on another review at the end of the season. They are 16th at 30 points. Nottingham Forest, who've gone full heel with all of their responses to everything, 26 points, waiting on possibly another point deduction. Relegation zone got really tight. Luton now at 25. They've lost 4 of 5. Not the time to do that. They have 4 matches to go. Burnley, 23 points, 3 points from safety. They have 4 matches to go. They've only lost once in their last 5, but they have 3 draws. Sheffield United's won 3 of 33. They have 16 points. They've lost 3 of 5. So that's where we are in the Premier League, and that's where we are with your viewing habits, and that's where we are with all of the stuff. Once again, remember, noon Eastern, Soccer's in Session Live. And it is, Cassie, close. It's close to a 3-hour show. If you want to talk about the break and then add Soccer's in Session, it's 3 hours of content from 9 to 1 with an hour gap, or more like a 50-minute gap at this point. Cassie, as always, thank you. And thanks to everybody on the Twitch pitch this morning. Yep, Dell, I benched Holland, but because Cole Palmer did not play, that's why I said when we were talking about fantasy that I was covered. I've got Phil Foden. So Foden's points will take care of Cole Palmer's points. I think that's how that works. And if you have not joined the Fantasy League here with us at SDH, go to the Jason Wright Agency on Facebook, Wright with a W. or go to Jason Wright with a WAGEN on Twitter, and you can join the fantasy league. And besides, I know it's match week 10 or 11, but still, you come in, you have fun, you're a part of the league, and you can run smack on everybody all season long. So back at noon Eastern, and we'll catch up with folks. Get you ready for day 2, round 2 of the playoffs in the GHSA, and presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Soccer's in session coming up at noon Eastern. For all of you out there, from all of us here, thanks for hanging out with us. That's Wall Pass Wednesday. Thanks to Tyler. Thanks to Chris Aiken at Clark Central to give us a bit of a tease. And because it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Mucho Platiel, play it safe. We'll see you at noon Eastern for Soccer's in Session Live, playoff style.